This is the truth about tilapia. What's up, y'all? I'm Reed the Fishmonger, and today we're going to talk about the truth about tilapia. The good, the bad, the ugly. When it comes to the bad, you might have heard that this fish has a crappy reputation, and that might come literally because it eats crap. These fish are extraordinarily popular when it comes to farm raising because they can handle pretty tough conditions. They can be piled on top of each other, so tightly pinned, and do just fine. It's quite impressive how they can survive in such crappy conditions, and they can survive off of eating just about anything. If you heard the intro about them eating crap, that's real. In a lot of Asian countries that are farm raising this fish, namely China, they are literally fed animal farming waste. That waste is getting mixed into their food for a cheap way to feed this fish to produce an inexpensive fish. So they will eat just about anything, including crap. They can be piled up on top of each other, which means that you can produce a lot of fish in a small amount of space, and this fish gets a high yield. When we're talking about yield in a seafood market, we're talking about how much sellable meat we can get off of the whole fish. Different fish have different ratios of how much fillet you can get off of the fish. When you see a small head like this and a broad body like that, you know you're gonna have a good yield. And if you heard me say good and you twitched a little bit, there are a lot of redeeming attributes about tilapia. Tilapia is extraordinarily high in protein. In an 8-ounce serving, you have over 60 grams of protein. Tilapia is also extraordinarily high in selenium. Selenium is a key nutrient to flushing out heavy metals like mercury, which is a major concern for a lot of people when it comes to eating seafood. Not only that, but this is a wildly economical fish, and I do not cast judgment on anybody where tilapia is the fish that you can afford. It's gonna be much better than eating a McDonald's hamburger. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Another reason why tilapia is so popular, other than economical reasons, is it's extraordinarily mild. It doesn't have a strong fishy flavor at all. A big part of that is that it's very low in omega fatty acids, which could be another one of the negatives. This right here is a wild tilapia. When hearing people talk about the negatives of farmed fish, your mind naturally goes to, well, that's because it's farmed. The wild is going to be a better option. In many cases, you are spot on with thinking that. In the tilapia case, that might not entirely be true. Before I dive into that, we're gonna cut this open, show you how white that meat is, which is a big part of why it's so popular. We don't have to take the scales off first if you're gonna be removing the skin anyway. And tilapia is most commonly consumed with the skin removed, and that's what we're gonna do right now for you. We're gonna go behind the head at an angle. And look how small that head is to that body. That fish is going to give you a high yield. And we go behind the head at an angle, not to lose out any of the meat. We're gonna twist our knife around. We're gonna slide right on top of that dorsal fin all the way down, just like that. We're going to rest our knife right on top of the skeleton and pull towards the head. You can already see how snow white this meat is. No wonder people eat this. We're gonna pause on cutting it for a minute. My dad, brothers, and I own Captain Clay and Son Seafood Market in Delray Beach, Florida. I have been a professional fishmonger for over 15 years. A fishmonger is not just someone that knows how to process fish and tell you all about it, but someone that is behind the counter taking care of customers. So I've been hands-on taking care of customers for a long time. One of the most requested things out of all these years of helping literally hundreds of thousands of people is, I want a fish that is mild tasting. This is why tilapia is so popular. Look at that snow white meat. When customers see snow white meat like that, they think instantly that that is going to be a delicious fish, and often they're not wrong. And with tilapia, you're not really wrong either. It is a good tasting fish. Let's keep cutting. And for those of you that know how critical I am towards this species, that criticism comes from what it's eating, how it's handled, how it's raised. Not that it's not good tasting, because it is. Tip of the knife, base of the ribs, angle it slightly up. Make sure your knife is not levitating like this, but resting on the skeleton just like that. And we're gonna push towards the head. What that just did was separated the connection the pin bones make to the ribs. Now, we're gonna use the tip of our knife at the base of those ribs. These tilapia rib bones come really, really high and they go far down, but they are easy to go over. All right, now we're gonna flip it over. Same deal, go behind the head at an angle. Tip of the knife right at that opening. We're gonna slide all the way down. Rest our knife right on top of that skeleton and pull towards the tail. Tip of the knife, base of the ribs, angle it slightly up. Separate the connection the pin bones make to those ribs. Now we can rest our knife right on top of those rib bones and slide down. Close it up, and a little flick just like that, and you've got your second side of tilapia off. Now, as promised, I'm going to explain why wild ones might not be any better. First of all, this is caught in fresh water. The wild tilapia are not found in the ocean. They are freshwater fish. And when it comes to eating freshwater fish, you want to be really mindful of what sources of freshwater you're getting that from. Is there runoff? Is there eutrophication? Is fertilizer coming down from people's yards into the water? Or worse, we've been freshwater fishing where we see the boats that go through canals with these huge tanks of harsh chemicals spraying them to prevent often invasive weeds from taking over the canals. Now, as promised, I'm going to tell you why I don't think a wild tilapia is necessarily a better option than a farmed tilapia. And I know that sounds wild and crazy, but these are coming out of fresh water. And where I live, and likely where you live, the freshwater bodies, there's houses near them. Everybody wants their house near water. I don't blame them. But if you see grass, which grass is an invasive species that takes a copious amount of fertilizer to keep alive because it's not native to anywhere in the United States, and a ton of water. So it's being heavily fertilized, heavily watered, and as it's being watered, or as it rains, that fertilizer is washing down into those freshwater bodies. That fertilizer is feeding the algae in the plants that this tilapia is eating. The #1 food source for this fish, a wild tilapia, is algae. The #2 is aquatic plants. So this fish is literally constantly feeding on heavily fertilized products. Now, that's just the tip of the iceberg. That is not counting sewage that goes into freshwater bodies that might be happening in an area near you, or industrial waste that is going into the freshwater bodies near you. I'm not saying if I eat this fish or if you eat this fish, you're instantly going to have problems, because you're not. But if you're making it a regular part of your diet, you do increase the chances of these factors having a negative impact on your health. I am a professional fishmonger. I am not a doctor. None of this is medical advice. It's just my 2 cents. So, farm versus wild, with all of these contributing factors, which do I think is better? Well, if your farm fish is coming from an Asian country versus a wild fish, I personally would take neither. Now, I caught this fish. I am going to eat this tilapia. I just don't think it's the healthiest option, especially in a seafood market like ours, where there are loads of hours out of the water, ocean fish caught in deep water that are much cleaner. You guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a killer day.